Once, butter was king, eggs were a daily staple, and red meat was dinner. Then, almost overnight, everything changed. Suddenly, fat was the enemy, cholesterol was a killer, and the foods we'd eaten for generations were cast as dangerous. This is the story of how a single graph helped rewrite global nutrition policy, how industry turned that fear into billions, and why, decades later, science is finally catching up with the truth. In 1953, American scientist Ancel Keys published this graph, known as the 7 Countries Study. It showed a neat upward trend. As a nation's intake of fat increased, so did its rate of heart disease. It was clear, simple, and compelling, and it spread like wildfire. But there was just one problem. The full data told a different story. You see, Keys had access to data from 22 countries, not 7, but he only showed the ones that fit his theory. When statisticians Jacob Yerushalmi and Herman Hillebo plotted all 22 countries, the pattern vanished. The neat line dissolved into noise. There was, in fact, no clear link between fat and heart disease. What Keys had done wasn't necessarily fraud, but it was selective, a form of scientific storytelling, and it shaped the health policies of nations. From that graph, a new fear was born. Cholesterol. Total cholesterol became public enemy number 1. Doctors prescribed statins, supermarkets filled with fat-free products, and the public was told, lower your fat and you'll live longer. However, more recent research has challenged that story. Large-scale reviews and modern studies have found that total cholesterol alone isn't a reliable predictor of heart disease, especially in older adults, where higher LDL levels have sometimes correlated with longer lifespans. What matters more is LDL particle size, inflammation, and the ratio of LDL to HDL. The picture is more nuanced, and our understanding of cholesterol's role is still evolving. When governments declared fat dangerous, the food industry moved fast. New products flooded the shelves. Low-fat cookies, fat-free yogurts, heart-healthy cereals. But without fat, these foods tasted bland, so manufacturers added sugar, refined grains, and industrial seed oils instead. The result? Highly profitable, ultra-processed foods with long shelf lives, high profit margins, and global appeal. And because red meat, butter, and cheese spoil quickly, they were sidelined. In their place came soy, corn, and wheat-based products, all cheaper, easier to store, and backed by billions in agricultural subsidies. But the shift wasn't just economic, it was political. Internal documents have since shown that the sugar industry paid scientists to redirect blame from sugar to fat. In the 1960s, the Sugar Research Foundation funded Harvard researchers to produce studies downplaying sugar's role in heart disease. This effort worked. For decades, sugar escaped scrutiny while the spotlight stayed fixed on saturated fat. Meanwhile, cereal companies and margarine brands poured millions into marketing campaigns. Butter became dangerous. Bacon, deadly. Fat-free became synonymous with healthy, even though the science didn't support it. Fast forward to today, and the picture has changed. Major studies, including from the British Medical Journal and the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, show no strong evidence that eating saturated fat causes heart disease. In fact, countries like France and Switzerland, which eat high amounts of animal fat, continue to have some of the lowest heart disease rates in the developed world. The real dangers appear to be processed foods, excess sugar, and seed oils, the very things we replaced fat with. However, the damage wasn't limited to the US. As America set the tone for dietary policy, global institutions followed. The World Health Organization, school nutrition programs, Even third world food aid campaigns began pushing low-fat, high-carb diets based on flawed data. Billions of people around the world were fed processed, grain-heavy, fat-light diets that mirrored the American model, and often with the same devastating health outcomes. In recent years, the narrative has taken a new turn: plant-based eating. While whole food plant-based diets can be healthy, the industry has quickly filled the market with highly processed meat-like substitutes, often packed with additives, seed oils, and soy isolates. Ironically, these products are now being marketed using the same tactics used decades ago: cholesterol-free, low in saturated fat. But behind the labels, the same economic incentive remains: high margin, very long shelf life, mass-produced foods designed more for profit than health. So how did we fall for it? Part of the answer lies in simplicity. Fat is bad was easy to understand, easy to teach, easy to repeat. It became dogma. Doctors, dietitians, and journalists all pushed the same message, and when someone questioned it, they were ridiculed or ignored. But real nutrition is complex. It's not about demonizing a single nutrient, it's about context, quality, and lifestyle. Blaming saturated fat and red meat served powerful interests. It gave the food industry new products to sell, backed by a simple and emotionally compelling story. Fat is bad was easy to say, easy to market, and profitable to push. Meanwhile, the real culprits, sugar, refined carbs, and ultra-processed foods, were ignored or even encouraged. Maybe it's time to at least look more closely into scientific studies, using unadjusted facts and data relating to the food we eat, without bias. We now know the science was flawed, that the 7 countries graph was only part of the story, that fear drove policy, and policy fueled profit. Maybe it's time now to rethink what we were taught, to rethink what we consume, to look at the evidence with fresh and open eyes. If the science has moved on, why are so many doctors and nutritionists still giving outdated advice? The truth is, many healthcare professionals were trained during the height of the low-fat era. Their textbooks, exams, and public health guidelines were rooted in decades of flawed science. Most medical schools offer little more than a few hours of nutrition education, often heavily influenced by industry-funded organizations. As a result, many well-meaning practitioners continue to recommend the same tired food pyramids and low-fat plans they learned years ago. And with pharmaceutical companies promoting cholesterol-lowering drugs as the default solution, the cycle continues. Treat the symptoms, not the source. Thanks for listening to Unadjusted Facts. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave a comment. It helps us enormously. And please join us next time as we bring you more unadjusted facts, covering a variety of fascinating topics.